What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Let's jump straight into the topic. It's no mystery, Sword and Shield alt arts have been on the rise. They've been moving really fast. A buddy sent in our group text a message of Sword and Shield alt arts in the last 2 years have gone from the entire Sword and Shield alt art collection being worth around $3,000 to now being worth around $6,000. That is a big jump for everybody who's been on the mission of collecting PSA 10 alt art sets. Now, I don't know if that was necessarily PSA 10 or the raw alt art pricing, but either way, it's no mystery. Alt arts have been going nuts, and I featured my 2 stacks of extra SIRs and alt arts that are either not in binders or I already own. I pulled this Iona recently on a live stream, as well as Charizard recently. That was pretty cool, but there's also cards underneath them that I've stacked, other alt arts and SIRs that I've pulled that I just thought were either destined to go up in value or just way too cool for me to even sell for a dollar amount right now. The thing is, a lot of Pokemon cards that I'm going to pull and sell are not going to change my quality of living anyways, so I'm starting to feel like it's just better to hold on to this stuff at least for a couple of years. And that brings us into our really topic for the video is trainer galleries. Our trainer gallery is going to become the next alt art boom. I think they probably will. I'd been thinking, trainer galleries in general have so much to offer. Why are they so undervalued? Well, it's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. You're more likely to pull them. They had better pull rates. They were more commonplace. They just didn't have as much value. And when these boxes were abundant and people were opening them like crazy, they would get duplicates on duplicates of trainer galleries. When I would go to my local shop and I would do a buyout, basically, I would buy out all of the stuff that they had on a shelf that was, modern Pokemon stuff. Like, y'all remember, I was buying large lots of cards and then immediately selling them on eBay and also filling my binders. So that made it really easy for me to fill out all of my sets. Was that basically, instead of opening all the product to fill out my sets, I was going after Grail cards. You guys know that I primarily focus on vintage Grail cards, cards that are, not to just say cards that are big money, cards that are, very exclusive, hard to find, high rarity, but just cards that I honestly like a lot more. One of the goals I've been working on is the Gold Star set. Everybody knows that who's been watching this channel that I've been working on a PSA 9 Gold Star set. But anyways, because of that, because of these other goals I had, or collecting Charizards before that, collecting crystals, while I was collecting gold stars, and then my theme deck collecting. Because of all of these things that I'm into, I really wasn't able to focus on modern as much as I would have liked to. I did go after some of the big cards. I bought a raw VMAX Rayquaza. I bought a raw VMAX Umbreon, and a friend of mine graded those for me, and they did come back as a 10, which was really awesome, and I really wasn't expecting that, honestly. But I'm really glad they did. So I lucked out on those fronts because I knew that I wanted Evolving Skies boxes, and I knew that I wanted those particular alt arts. And I pretty much did that with all of the alt arts that I really wanted early on. I was like, you know what? I know I'm doing way too much right now, but I'm going to snag these alt arts before they rise in value. Unfortunately, my friends who pre-graded the other alt arts were pretty much like, this is not going to get a 10. It's too off center. The centering is crooked. So I ended up keeping all those cards in my binder, and I kind of left it at that. Since then, alt art prices have really skyrocketed to a point where, and I've talked about this in the past and gotten, controversial responses on it, but they've gone up to a price point where I'm considering buying PSA 9 alt arts, just because of the cost factor, and I'm looking for ones that are specifically off center, because if I buy a card and it's been docked from a 10 to a 9, and I can clearly tell it's because of the centering, because the back has no wear or issues or dings, then I feel better about that purchase. My Latios GX, my Lovebirds Sun and Moon team up Latios GX and my Gengar team up GX card with the Mimikyu. Both of those are 9s. Both of them are slightly off center. They're not perfect. Am I okay with it? Absolutely. So why would it be any different for Sword and Shield Alt Arts? Like, yes, you want the 10. Yes, it's modern and it's still affordable. Just buy the 10. But not everybody can shell out that kind of money for buying all the 10s, especially now with alt art prices getting so out of control. But anyways, that's my plan with alt arts. But moving back to trainer galleries, because trainer galleries are becoming the talk right now. There's so much value in the trainer galleries. Yeah, some of them aren't as spectacular. The pull rates are easier. Some of them don't have any texturing at all, especially some of the Scarlet and Violet trainer galleries that we see and love so much, like the Magikarp and the Tyranitar from Paldea Evolved and the Raichu. Just right there just tells us how great Paldea Evolved is, because there's 3 off the top of my head that I can think of trainer galleries that are just amazing. Now, a lot of those trainer galleries are starting to move up, right? But trainer galleries from Sword and Shield era have really seen a lot of growth, especially the PSA 10 examples. And one major regret that I have is in those days where I would go to my local card shop and I would pick up large bundles of cards from them, and I would pick them up at, $1, $2, $3. I was picking up those trainer galleries for dirt cheap, and now that they've moved a good bit, I've kind of thought, I bought those lots for content. I bought them for fun. I bought them to fill up my modern binders. I knew a lot of the stuff was not going to 10, and I didn't intend on grading it. But one thing I wish I would have done differently was treat it more as investing and less as content and having fun and, just being a passionate collector and filling my binders. I know that that's really at the core of what makes this hobby great, is how passionate we are as collectors and how much we actually just enjoy the hobby, and we don't think about the money aspect so much. But there is a part of me looking back that has a little bit of regret that I didn't hold on to a lot of trainer galleries I was picking up for dirt cheap. I wish I would have held on to those cards a little bit longer, because if I would have held on to them for maybe a year longer or a couple months longer, I could have potentially seen a gain on every single raw card that I ended up picking up. So that's just me kind of saying some of my regrets, that as far as trainer gallery goes, I loved the trainer galleries. I knew that I loved them. I wanted to hold on to them. There was this part of me that was just like, these are going to go up in value. But it's so easy to say that. And then in hindsight, it doesn't really play out, and nobody remembers, nobody cares. For me, if I'm going to talk about holding on to something, I'm going to really do it. And that would have meant at that time, basically absorbing, the loss of all the money I'd spent on those cards and holding on to them, and at the time, I didn't think that they were going to go up too much in a short period of time. In my opinion, I thought that, the trainer galleries would maybe move up 10, 20% in the next year or two, but it wasn't enough for me to actually hold on to them. And some of the auctions that I had actually sold that card for more than it was going for on TCG Player. Sometimes there is, there's not a total correlation of value from TCG Player to eBay. Sometimes cards on eBay just go for astronomically more than TCG Player. That's just the case with auctions. That's the case with the competitive environment of auctions and eBay, and people just buying the stuff because they want it and not thinking too much about price. So I was able to not only break even on a lot of cards that I picked up, a year, 2 years ago, especially trainer galleries, because trainer galleries were so cheap. For me, it was like a no-brainer. It was like, if I buy these, I think it'd be very hard for me to believe that I'm not going to get anything on these, or at least break even on these. Like, they were amazing. The Brilliant Stars trainer galleries, you could find those all over the place in my shop. The Flareons, Vaporeons, Jolteons, there were a lot of those. And, I always looked at them and thought, why are these so undervalued? They're incredible. They're the evolutions. And now we're seeing all of those things that I thought, a year or two ago, we're seeing those things come to fruition, and we're seeing those prices start to rise on TCG Player for those items. And, more and more now people are talking about how, they were buying a lot of copies of those trainer galleries. People were building extra binders of trainer galleries. Trainer galleries have really become the little brother alt arts. That's, I think, how a lot of people are going to look at trainer galleries, as the little brother alt arts. Not nearly as much growth as the regular alt arts, which is, again, why I've kept on to so many extra copies, duplicates. And then if I see alt arts for a decent price at a convention or a trade night, I will definitely pick those up, because it's just a no-brainer, especially with the alt arts now. But trainer galleries, I wasn't fully sure what was going to happen there. Another thing to keep in mind is, and we still need to keep this in mind, is that during the Sun and Moon hype, when Sun and Moon was really hot, people were spending a lot of money on Sun and Moon, too much money. Now, Sun and Moon is kind of, it's an afterthought. More people are focused on Sword and Shield, and more people are about to be focused on Scarlet and Violet and the early sets of Scarlet and Violet, and completing those and then going after singles in those sets, that I think, this could easily be a fad where we see these prices are a little bit higher right now, but then they come back down again. So this isn't to say that trainer galleries are not going to do phenomenally well over the next couple of years, because they might. This is just to say that maybe there's a little bit of hype with these cards right now, and it would be worth maybe waiting a little bit longer for these cards to maybe retrace a little bit in value. Personally, I don't know if it's going to happen with trainer galleries, because they're already pretty cheap and a pretty good value. And they're beautiful cards, and you can still get them on a budget. Even in PSA 10, you can get these cards on a budget. A lot of them are still under $100. But there are, a good bit of examples that are over $100 in a PSA 10. With the alt arts specifically, I do think this needs to be said. Alt arts have been, going to the moon. I do think this needs to be said that I believe alt arts are going to retrace a little bit. I don't think that it's sustainable to see all this growth and just see them pushing and pushing and pushing. I really feel, and recently there was like a sale for a PSA 10 Gengar that went in auction for like $5,000. I don't know what is going on right now with the markets. I also think that when PSA begins the vault system with eBay, and people are able to seamlessly grade their cards and then ship them to the vault through eBay, and they're listed immediately, we are going to see a lot of alt arts getting listed. We are going to see an uptick of alt arts and trainer galleries, and all this hype that's building around trainer galleries and alt arts right now is going to contribute to that. People are going to be buying a lot of trainer galleries raw. They might not do it from content, or maybe they do it from content. Either way, trainer galleries are the talk right now. That's what people are going to be focused on. And my theory is that people are going to buy a lot of trainer galleries right now. People are going to continue to buy alt arts. It might just continue rising because people are just extremely bullish on it. Right now, both the stock market and the card market seem really, really bullish right now. I know you might say, Orion, there's no correlation there, but when people make a lot of money in the markets, they might want to find another thing, another hobby, another place, another alternative asset class to put their money in, and that might become Pokemon. Recently in the stock market world, we had the Roaring Kitty. We had a prolific figure in investing come back and talk about meme stocks. A lot of people correlate meme stocks and that kind of money flowing in, that new money flowing in and all that growth. They correlate that with Pokemon too. And I think a lot of people right now are bullish on the markets and on those kinds of stocks, on the meme stocks, and even stocks that aren't meme stocks. I think the entire market is being affected by the return of that guy. But when we talk about back with Pokemon, I think that a lot of people are going to invest a lot of money into trainer galleries and alt arts, and then we're going to see a flood of them getting graded through PSA and immediately sent to eBay. And when we see all these cards flood because PSA has made it seamless for these cards to enter the market, I do think that there's going to be a retrace on a lot of these prices. And I just think it's honestly, for me, it's easier to be skeptical than it is to be bullish 100%. you know, a lot of my money is wrapped up in Pokemon. So, of course, I want to be bullish on Pokemon. Am I bullish on modern sealed investing? Yes. Am I still skeptical on that? Yes. Can reprints happen in a couple year period? Yes, they can. Will they affect the market? Yes. Will they tank the market? I don't know. Maybe not necessarily, but I think we can see retraces on a lot of these prices from alt arts, trainer galleries, and modern sealed product. I think a lot of it can come back a little bit, especially if we see some kind of reprint, especially if the market gets flooded with cards being graded and immediately listed through PSA Vault to eBay. There are so many variables here, and again, this is a reason that I have stuck to my guns with vintage and, you know, hunting for grail cards and cards that just make me really, really happy. You know, it's not to say that that can't be done with modern cards and modern products. You know, there are modern cards that make me absolutely so stoked, such as this Brilliant Stars Charizard. Pulling this one, and this isn't the exact copy. The exact copy is actually up here. I have it on display on the shelf. I'll probably get this one graded, but just as a reminder that dreams do come true, and pulling this card on our last Wednesday night stream was really, really awesome. But yeah, I find this to be one of those alt arts and Sword and Shield era that just is absolutely prolific and an amazing alt art that everybody should have at least one copy of. And that's a card that makes me really, really happy and excited. And knowing that the price point is where it's at, even a PSA 10 copy is still really affordable for a PSA 10 Charizard card that is just absolutely bonkers. And for me, that's the Brilliant Stars Charizard V alt art. I just love this card so much. And then aside from that, one thing that I did do that I'm proud of myself for doing, because I do see the value in it, is promos, right? We've talked about trainer galleries here. A lot of trainer galleries have a lot of value. They're going to go up in time, especially because, and people have talked about this before trainer galleries were a thing, that at the price point for trainer galleries, they are so cheap. Trainer galleries were $1, $2, $3 max a year or two ago. They were all dirt cheap. There were a couple examples of the more textured cards, the cards that were a little bit more popular, that went for maybe a few dollars up to maybe $7 to $10. And then now with Scarlet and Violet, we saw some trainer gallery cards like the Raichu and Tyranitar. We saw those, you know, starting at $20, $15. So, you know, trainer galleries are becoming cards that are not just easier, more commonplace to pull. They're becoming more valuable overall. And then, of course, the Ghastly and Temporal Forces that shot up, the Magikarp and Paldea Evolve that has shot up. It is just going to show that trainer galleries have the juice and can run just like alt arts. They are the alt art little brother. But let's get into the next weird little investment play that people may see or may not see, and that's promos, right? Promos are super common, right? We're getting a promo in every single ETB. We're getting a promo in every single UPC. So why on earth would promos go up in value? Well, because this hobby is blowing up, and despite stuff being very available, stuff is drying up and stuff is becoming more valuable. And for me, one thing I have done shamelessly is I have saved a good majority of all of my promos, all of my promo cards that I've gotten out of ETBs, UPCs. I've saved pretty much all of them in this little ETB case right here. And one of my favorites, because I'm not going to go over all of these, but there are so many. But one of my favorites, I do really like the Snorlax from 151. But yeah, these two are probably my favorite promos in all of Scarlet and Violet. The Pikachu from Paldea Evolved. This card, I never understood why it wasn't worth very much, even as a promo coming out, because if we look at the, you know, I've got it in here. Where is it? Here we go. Because we've been opening some Obsidian Flames too. Of course, I won't forget the Charmander from Obsidian Flames. This Charmander has always performed really well and is a great example of promos that can perform really well. It's a free card. You open your ETB, you might not get anything out of your ETB. You hold on to that promo, and that promo is probably going to become, you know, a $10 to $20 promo down the road. If it's still sealed and it's in mint condition and maybe it has a chance of grading highly, it might even go for a little bit more than that. But the Charmander is a perfect example of promos that are buy worthy and hold worthy and investment worthy. The Charmander in particular, I just wanted to get some cash back, so I ended up selling all of my Charmander promos at Collecticon. I sold a stack of them, so that was kind of sad because looking back, I wish I hadn't have done that. But I also got pretty good value on those at the time. But one thing they didn't want was they didn't want these Paldea Evolved Pikachu promos. And honestly, I think that this promo is pure gold. It just reminds me of a really, really good trainer gallery that's being slept on. So I think these promos are really, really good value. And then, of course, my all-time #1 pick as far as promos go is going to have to be the Mew. The 151 Mew is just phenomenal. I have a lot of these guys. I probably need to organize this a little bit better and figure out why these are organized so weird. We got some metal cards in here that I think are messing up the organization. I gotta put the rest of these cards in top loaders, keep them nice and flat. But yeah, we have a lot of Mew promos in here. Some of these are top loaded, some aren't, just because I've went through so many 151 UPCs. But the Mew promos to me are just phenomenal. These cards never get old to me, and I found it very, very hard to put them up for auction and let go of them, because honestly, the quality of these cards, the artwork on these cards, it's incredible. And how we've kind of allowed a card like that to go so far under the radar, I don't know. I guess it's because it's a promo and that's why it's just valued a lot less, but just some things for people to think about. I made some mistakes of not holding on to a lot of cards that I bought. Guys! I've made a lot of mistakes not holding on to a lot of cards that I bought, but I think it was a good choice keeping all these promos and grabbing a couple duplicate alt arts. I think that was a good choice a year or so ago. I just wish I would have done more of it. We're seeing everything play out with Modern now, and it's doing really, really well. And I kind of always knew in the back of my head that Modern Pokemon was going to have way, way, way more growth than Vintage. It's crazy seeing it now. And it's also, you know, great for everybody that made really good plays, that bought a lot of product, that stocked up on sealed product, that were buying tons of alt arts and duplicates. You know, even buying those cards raw, it was like a lot of people I knew, you know, locally weren't really touching alt arts. They just wanted one copy and that was that. There's so many of them out there. It's just they're everywhere. I don't need that. But I always saw it as just like, dude, that card is so hard to pull. Even if there's so many out there, like, shouldn't we buy a couple more just because they're really, really tough to pull and people are always going to remember that and down the road might want to pay a huge premium for a card like that they never pulled? I know for me in particular, especially talking about the Charizard alt art, if I never pulled this card myself, and I still have to get it graded, so if it doesn't come back as a 10, you know, I might end up buying a 10 because I really want that card in particular in a PSA 10. But, you know, I think, you know, that's something we overlooked, was that, you know, Sword and Shield, those alts were so hard to pull that, yeah, it probably was a no-brainer opportunity to just buy up as many Sword and Shield alt arts. And when I say Sword and Shield alt arts, I don't mean all the alt arts, because I don't believe the alt arts were created equal. I do feel like there's really only 1 or 2 chase alts in every set. If, you know, a set even has, you know, 2 alt art chase cards that are really good. Some of the sets that we have now don't exactly have that. Scarlet Violet has still done a great job with all of the artwork. And, you know, it brings us to the next question of, you know, in Scarlet and Violet with trainer galleries, are the trainer galleries in Scarlet and Violet going to do the same thing that the Sword and Shield trainer galleries are doing now? At least for the good ones. Like, is that something we should be keeping on our radar? Probably. But there are so many plays to be made in Pokemon. I just want you guys to remember that collect what you love. Just because everybody is doing something doesn't mean that you should be doing it too. And, you know, just go after the art that speaks to you. Go after the cards that make you the happiest. Go after stuff that you personally understand. Because, me and my friends were talking about the Gengar from Fusion Strike. And I'm sorry, I know you guys are going to flame me for this, but I don't like the Gengar from Fusion Strike. I own it. It's in my binder. I bought one at regionals. I got it for 180 bucks. Very, very happy about that price. But I don't like the Gengar from Fusion Strike. I don't think that it's all that good. I just don't like it. I don't like the artwork behind it. So, when you're buying alt arts and you're investing in this hobby, invest in the cards that you understand. For me, some of my regrets for trainer galleries that I let slip away was the Raichu, somebody was just texting me, the Raichu from Paldea Vault. That card to me is amazing. And, I had so many copies at one point. I was holding on to them, and then I auctioned them all off because, I was buying more expensive cards and I couldn't really afford to hold on to that stuff and collect the same stuff that I'm collecting now, the Grail cards. And I think I made the right decision at the end of the day. I bought a lot of these cards through the eBay vault when the vault was, everything was working out with the eBay vault. And so I didn't pay taxes on pretty much any of the higher end graded cards that I have. And I was able to save money, and the seller was able to save on fees as well. But I was able to accomplish a lot of my big collection goals while I was missing out on a lot of these vintage goals. And to be honest with you, I don't think I have any regrets. I think down the road it's going to be really, really hard to find the cards that I ended up going after during that time. And I really, really wanted those cards, so I'm glad I made that decision. Whereas modern, I can still find these cards now. I can still buy them in PSA 10. Will I spend a lot of money now? Will I spend nearly twice as much as I would have spent 2 years ago going after some of these alt arts? Yeah, I will. But luckily, the Umbreon and the Rayquaza from Evolving Skies were pretty much the most expensive ones, and then the Blaziken, which... The Blaziken is going to hurt because I definitely want that card in a PSA 10, and I'm going to buy that card probably because I'm probably not going to find a gradable copy at this point. During Sword and Shield era, there were so many gradable copies, and so it was like, oh, just grade your own cards. But now we're back to the situation of probably better to just buy the PSA 10 than try your hand at grading a raw copy because there's not a lot of raw copies today, and if someone is selling a raw copy, they very well probably know that card is flawed and wouldn't grade a 10 because most people today are grading. So I think grading is really more reserved for right when these sets come out, or if you have a local shop that just gets a lot of nice, clean, minty product in, maybe you can find some gradable copies in there. I haven't really had that experience with my local shop. I haven't seen them get cards in that I was like, dude, I could 100% grade this at PSA 10. A lot of the times, the cards are flawed in some respect. Probably is the reason why they weren't graded and they were sold to the shop. But yeah, I think right now it's okay for people to pay the premium for these graded cards because they're probably going to be gambling with a raw copy. Now, on the other side, I think the PSA 9 is a great value, especially when you can tell that it's just because it's off center. People are going to flame me for that. I don't care, okay? This is my opinion. I don't care necessarily what you think about PSA 9s, or if you think Orion's giving terrible advice, don't ever buy a PSA 9. Buy what you like, okay? And for me, it's also about being a little more frugal with, some of these cards being really expensive now, like Blaziken being like a $500 card, but I can still get Blaziken probably for the mid 200s in a PSA 9, maybe 200 flat in a PSA 9, and I would be just as happy with that. I already have one in my binder, and I want to keep my binder copies in the binders for a reason. If I ever want to go through the binder later in life, I'll have all those and they'll be raw. But I do also want some of these alt art Sword Shield cards in my briefcase, but I'm not a perfectionist. I don't have to have a PSA 10. And honestly, in this consumer-driven perfectionist, hobby, you get a lot of people that have to have PSA 10. And I'm just here to say that You don't have to get PSA 10. You can get a PSA 9. It's still going to look awesome. You're still going to love the card, and you're going to save a lot of money doing so. At the end of the day, a lot of it is going to be in your head, and a lot of it is going to be just over the centering of the card and not having a white speck on the back of the card. All that being said, PSA 10 is PSA 10. It's as close as you're going to get to perfect. And the market is the market. So a PSA 10 is always going to be more valuable than a PSA 9, of course. I'm just putting it out there, just my thoughts, that if you're looking at a card and it's kind of out of your budget, maybe think about getting a PSA 9. It's going to be very close to the raw price of the card, and somebody already did the legwork for you of getting it graded. So anyways, that's my thoughts. But before you even do that, I would wait until June when PSA Vault starts rolling out and they start shipping all these cards out and the market gets flooded by all these copies of graded cards. I think that's going to happen. That'll be interesting to see if that happens. But yeah, a lot of random stuff today. I have to now top load all of these Mew EXs because they're just all stacked together. Anyways, peace, guys.